DeWanna Bonner left the Indiana Fever in 2025, signed with the Phoenix Mercury, and then watched that same Mercury squad spend the following season physically overwhelming Indiana, leaving much of the Fever roster battling injuries. Now she was back in Indianapolis, and it didn't take long for tensions to flare with Caitlin Clark. The game exploded into chaos with 6 technical fouls in just 8 seconds, an ejection, and a controversial moment when Alyssa Thomas delivered a hard elbow to Clark, but the foul was assessed against Clark instead. Bonner stayed in Clark's face throughout the night, and Clark was even given a technical simply for clapping after a questionable call. From the opening whistle, it felt like everything was stacked against Indiana. Yet instead of letting the frustration derail her, Clark answered with 24 points and 9 assists, set a WNBA record, and with Sophie Cunningham backing her every step of the way, made sure Bonner, Thomas, and the Mercury paid for every mistake. When DeWanna Bonner returned to Gainbridge Fieldhouse on June 22 wearing a Phoenix Mercury jersey, the reception was immediate and impossible to ignore.
As that one doesn't go. And Bonner and Clark continue, and players and officials now getting involved. Security has come off the bench, and Clark is trying to get these fans into it.
This wasn't scattered booing or routine crowd noise. It was relentless hostility from fans who clearly hadn't forgotten how her time with the Fever ended and had been waiting for the chance to let her know exactly how they felt. To understand the reaction, you have to look back at what happened. Bonner joined the Indiana Fever before the 2025 season, appeared in 9 games with 3 starts, and then requested a trade after saying the fit simply wasn't right.
Well, we're already setting up a game for Wednesday night, by the way, but yeah, let's not forget DeWanna Bonner was a member of the Indiana Fever last season, and I'm not sure if she parted on great terms. And Caitlin Clark and DeWanna now on multiple possessions getting tied up.
And now Hines Allen and Thomas, who had a couple.
That explanation came without much detail, leaving behind plenty of unanswered questions after the organization had invested part of its offseason plans in bringing her aboard. Many around the team reportedly felt disappointed by the way things unfolded, and Indiana fans certainly hadn't forgotten. But that trade request was only part of the story. After leaving, Bonner signed with the Phoenix Mercury, whose matchups against Indiana became some of the league's most physical. Several Fever starters ended up sidelined with injuries, forcing the franchise to rely on emergency hardship contracts just to field enough healthy players. Those special roster exceptions are only granted when injuries become severe, and many fans connected Phoenix's physical style directly to the Fever's injury problems. By the time Bonner returned to Indianapolis with Phoenix on June 22, the crowd wasn't just reacting to a former player who had requested a trade. They were responding to everything that had happened afterward. In their eyes, Bonner's departure, her move to Phoenix, and the Mercury's physical treatment of Indiana all formed one continuous storyline. Whether that perception was fair or not, it fueled the atmosphere inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Olsen snagging that offensive rebound. Good job. Yeah, the Colson brother who was in Vegas, won some championships, and it was her birthday. She turned 30.
Opening minutes, Bonner played with noticeable edge, constantly crowding Clark, exchanging words, and using persistent physical pressure that seemed intended to disrupt her focus. It went beyond normal competitive trash talk and instead carried the feeling that Bonner had made Clark her personal target for the night. What Bonner seemed to underestimate was how much the Indiana Fever had changed since the previous season. This was no longer the injury-riddled roster that struggled to find healthy bodies. Clark was now surrounded by greater depth, more toughness, and teammates who had already shown they weren't willing to let opponents single her out without consequences. Having spent only 9 games with the organization, Bonner may not have fully realized how different the team had become. She learned quickly as the crowd fueled the energy inside the arena. The Fever matched Phoenix's intensity, and it became clear long before Clark found her offensive rhythm that this game was beginning to slip away from the Mercury. Indiana's opening quarter was about as rough as it could have been, managing only 6 points, their lowest first quarter total since 2016. defensive strategy was highly effective, packing the paint, closing off driving lanes, and daring the Fever to win with outside shooting before they could establish any rhythm. The plan worked perfectly early on as Indiana struggled to generate quality looks, every missed shot adding more pressure to the next possession. Clark missed her first 5 attempts and failed to score in the quarter, an extremely rare sight, while the Fever shot just 2 for 18 from the field. Kelsey Mitchell's three-pointer with only 0.7 seconds remaining prevented an even more embarrassing total, because without it Indiana would have finished the quarter with only 3 points. Instead, they trailed 19-6, and Phoenix looked firmly in control heading toward what seemed like a comfortable victory.
And the leadership.
Well, this is fighting for position, but, I mean, Caitlin Clark issued a technical foul. You can hear the crowd react.
And Clark is perplexed and shocked as to why she was assisted technical.
Well, I will say, release and jump around would also be an option, you know, pulling the chair, but.
The officiating also made it difficult for Indiana to find any rhythm early in the game. Several calls appeared to favor Phoenix, while the Fever absorbed plenty of contact without getting the benefit of the whistle. It created the feeling that almost nothing was breaking Indiana's way during the opening quarter. At the break, head coach Stephanie White challenged her players to bring more energy, stay aggressive, and trust that their shots would eventually start falling. After the game, Clark agreed that the Fever simply lacked energy early on and admitted Phoenix's strategy of crowding the paint disrupted their offense and temporarily took them out of their normal flow. Everything changed once the second quarter began because Clark stopped waiting for the offense to recover on its own and completely took control of the game. Even saying she took over hardly captures what happened, as she almost single-handedly erased Indiana's early deficit by pouring in 15 points during the quarter. Her barrage included deep three-pointers from well beyond 30 feet that had nothing to do with drawn-up plays.
Caitlin, you guys trailed by as many as 16 points in the first quarter. What led to the response we saw in the second?
Yeah, just fight. First quarter was embarrassing. Got to be able to space the floor, make open shots, and get downhill. I thought we did a lot better job getting our feet in the paint. That's what allowed us to get better looks, and then we also got to the free throw line, which helped as well.
Those shots weren't part of the offense Phoenix was trying to defend, they were simply Clark deciding enough was enough and confidently firing from wherever she found space. Indiana completely flipped the game in the second quarter, outscoring Phoenix 35-22 after managing only 6 points in the opening period. In just 12 minutes, the Fever erased a 16-point deficit and headed into halftime with the score tied. Clark was responsible for 15 of those 35 points, meaning she generated nearly half of Indiana's offensive production after being held scoreless in the first quarter.
Clark from way outside drops a three! Couple 50-50 balls on the last 2 possessions have gone the way of Phoenix, and it turned into buckets. Clark, oh yeah! Here we go! Clark almost got that 5th foul. Find inside. It's Boston.
It was one of the team's most explosive quarters of the season, coming immediately after one of its worst starts in nearly a decade. The dramatic turnaround completely changed the atmosphere inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse as the crowd watched Phoenix's lead disappear possession by possession. The opening quarter didn't prove Indiana's offense was fundamentally broken. Instead, it highlighted just how heavily the team depends on Clark whenever things begin to stall. In the second quarter she embraced that responsibility without hesitation, sparking the comeback almost by herself.
Indiana brings a double that time.
Clark, Mitchell is on an island! Clark wants to keep piling on. When will they pick her up here? She's not been afraid to let it fly from out there. Clark just spins off a Broshan. Indiana has numbers. Clark launch ahead, and Hall hits a 3!
But even as she carried the Fever back into the game, Phoenix continued trying to impose its physical style, setting the stage for the controversial sequence that would ultimately define the night's intensity. One of the game's biggest flashpoints came when Alyssa Thomas caught Caitlin Clark with an elbow, yet the officials ruled the foul against Clark instead. Even after reviewing the replay, the call remained unchanged, leaving the entire Gainbridge Fieldhouse crowd stunned and furious. Throughout the game, Clark had already been battling Phoenix's physical approach, with much of the contact falling just inside what the officials allowed. So when Thomas's elbow connected near Clark's face and the whistle went the opposite direction, frustration reached a boiling point. Clark.
Hull, bouncing, Billings, extra pass, Boston to beat the buzzer, and knocks down a three! Billings, oh, nobody picked her up!
Reacted immediately, Bonner stepped into the confrontation almost instantly, and months of tension finally erupted during a chaotic stretch of fourth-quarter basketball. Sophie Cunningham didn't step into the confrontation to calm emotions or play mediator. She stepped in because she had spent the entire game watching opponents target Clark and decided she wasn't going to let it continue without a response. Positioning herself directly between Clark and Bonner, Cunningham made it clear that anyone looking to confront Clark would first have to deal with her.
Able to win the jump. Thomas comes up with it, but is going to get whistled for an offensive foul. And she's looking at Nate Tibbetts. He doesn't even look to the back of the bench. He immediately signaled to take a look at.
Oh,
yeah, that's
saw
not going to
the
get
elbow extend from behind, and
that's not going to get overturned, I don't think.
That protective attitude wasn't something she developed after joining Indiana. Back in 2025, when J.C. Sheldon appeared to poke Clark in the eye during a game, Cunningham publicly defended Clark despite not even being her teammate at the time. Now that they wear the same uniform, that loyalty has only become stronger, and the Bonner incident showed exactly how seriously Cunningham takes that role. Of the confrontation between Cunningham and Bonner triggered one of the wildest sequences of the night, resulting in 6 technical fouls in just 8 seconds.
Successful challenge. The timeout will be charged to Indiana because they're due. Phoenix will retain their timeout.
just like we thought, right?
Caitlin would say this, okay? When you see the elbow, you go, oh, if she caught her, that would have been...
Could have been bad, yeah.
Yes. But the officials are saying, Caitlin Clark put a little too much body into AT.
Without technicals in rapid succession, Maisha Heinz-Allen was ejected after shoving an opponent, and the fourth quarter turned into a lengthy series of reviews, challenges, stoppages, and foul calls that disrupted any remaining flow of the game. Despite the chaos, Indiana handled the situation better than Phoenix. Then another controversial moment followed when Clark received her 5th technical foul of the season simply for clapping after a questionable call. Players across the league routinely react far more dramatically without punishment, yet Clark was penalized for a brief gesture directed near an official. Given the night's...
I understand the frustration in the technical because there's 2 players just battling for position. Oh my.
And they're still going. Now it's Cunningham and Bonner. Keep in mind, Cunningham and Bonner have history as teammates. Nate Tibbetts out on the floor, Stephanie White out on the floor, and Amy Bonner is telling everybody to go to their benches as DeWanna Bonner hears it from this Fever faithful.
Earlier decisions, many viewed the call as another example of inconsistent officiating. One of the more memorable moments came immediately after the series of confrontations and technical fouls. Bonner stepped to the free throw line and missed, then Thomas followed with a miss of her own. After spending most of the game watching calls go against Indiana, Clark didn't need to say anything. Her reaction alone spoke volumes, and the home crowd instantly understood the moment. Cunningham's impact, however, extended far beyond confronting Bonner. She has embraced the role of protecting Clark whenever opponents try to make her the focus of physical play. Clark finished the night with 24 points, 9 assists, and only 3 turnovers while shooting 8-4-17 from the field. Those 9 assists reflected just how effectively she controlled Indiana's offense, repeatedly creating quality scoring chances for teammates while remaining the team's top scoring threat, making the Fever extremely difficult to defend.
Quarter we go, they're trailing by 10. Keep an eye on her and J.C. Sheldon. Clark trying to back her down. Sheldon, that was Clark, hitting her in the face. Clark is upset about that, then everybody's upset about that. Marina Mabry comes in. She decks Clark, tempers flaring on.
Clark's offensive versatility forced Phoenix into an impossible defensive dilemma. She could create her own shot off the dribble, attack defenders closing out, and reach her preferred spots without relying on screens, making it difficult for the Mercury to overload their defense against her. At the same time, Kelsey Mitchell capitalized on the extra attention Clark attracted, finishing with 22 points as Phoenix struggled to contain both scorers. Lexi Hall also played a key role despite her quieter stat line, making every shot she attempted, including both of her three-pointers. Her outside shooting stretched the defense, prevented Phoenix from packing the paint, and opened valuable space for Clark and Mitchell to attack. It was the type of efficient performance that often goes unnoticed but has a major impact on a team's overall offensive success. Another important storyline involved Monique Billings and the chemistry she has quickly developed with Clark. While some questioned before the season whether the two could build an effective partnership, their connection actually began long before Billings joined Indiana. The pair had already shared the court during FIBA competition, giving them valuable experience together that is now showing up in WNBA games.
Chris, I said it earlier, we saw it earlier too, like, AT doesn't get moved very easily, and so she might not feel like that's that much of a hit, but the officials are looking at it, and Caitlin Clark is saying ball don't lie, right?
I was going to say, the fans are enjoying a little bit of playground justice.
It's like you paid for overtime, but there's no overtime, it's just a really long fourth quarter.
We still have...
Billings consistently anticipated Clark's passes before they were even delivered, allowing her to finish plays with confidence instead of reacting late. That chemistry paid off on June 22 as Billings recorded her first double-double with the Fever, finishing with 14 points and 10 rebounds, with many of her baskets coming directly from Clark's perfectly timed playmaking. Then came the historic accomplishment. Clark's performance of 24 points and 9 assists extended her streak of games with at least 20 points and 5 assists to 6 straight, setting a new WNBA record. No player in league history had ever reached those benchmarks in 6 consecutive games. Achieving that milestone while battling constant physical defense and navigating a game filled with controversial officiating made the feat even more remarkable. Recording 20 points and 5 assists in a single game is already considered an outstanding performance, but sustaining that level across 6 straight contests requires balancing the responsibilities of both primary scorer and primary playmaker. Those demands typically work against each other because increased scoring attention makes creating opportunities for teammates more difficult, yet Clark continued excelling in both areas throughout the streak.
Played well here tonight for Indiana. Give it Stephanie White.
Shooting and was
16 good minutes. Mitchell shot clock down to 4. Putting up the moves and knocking it down.
Indiana secured an 86-77 victory, but the final score hardly reflected how challenging the night had been. After scoring only 6 points in the opening quarter, the Fever battled back through a series of controversial calls, physical play, technical fouls, and an ejection before finally pulling away late. Following the game, Clark summed up one of the night's biggest talking points by saying, "It's ridiculous. I got a technical for clapping," offering a straightforward reaction to the officiating after finishing with 24 points and 9 assists. She also praised her teammates for standing up for one another throughout the game. Bonner's return to Indianapolis ended with a frustrating loss for Phoenix after an emotional, hard-fought contest. If you enjoyed the coverage, be sure to leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and check out the next video for more basketball news and analysis.
Points per game over her last 5. Boston kick out. Mitchell swing it. Hull hits a 3.
Boy, did Lexi Hull need that for her confidence. She is one of the best players out of the corner.
Monique
Billings. Oh, nobody picked her up. She will waltz to the rim. And Indiana has gone from down 16 to up 10.
She said, the GOAT right here. Vote her all-star.
Big dubs!
Y'all know what this means. That's a dub, baby. Beaver dub! Dub City, baby. Come back Wednesday. Dubs in the chat. Look at all my beautiful teammates, y'all. This is what we do. Indiana Fever, baby.